Hey there, what is up? I'm going to do a short video of 3 things that I think can help bring you out of a negative headspace. This might not work for everyone. If it does, great. If it doesn't, I'm going to do quite a few more. I have a list of about 12 in front of me, but I'm just going to do 3 for this video because otherwise the video will be like 25 minutes long. So number one, or the first one on my list, is sleep. Sleep is so important for mood and so many other functions in the body. If you want to check out Matthew Walker, he can teach you more about the science of sleep, and there's just so many things. Like, I'm not going to get into it now, but it is amazing the amount of things that sleep does and how important it is. One thing I would recommend is that, if you think you're not getting enough sleep, maybe try and get an extra hour each night, or if you're not willing to do that, just put yourself in a dark setting for an hour before you go to bed, because it will just increase your melatonin. And with any luck, you fall asleep a bit earlier, or at least want to go to sleep a little bit more. Now, I'm nearly 100% sure the podcast I was just referencing is Matthew Walker. He's a sleep expert. I'll try and find like a link to him, or maybe his YouTube or whatever he has, and put it in the description. Next is drugs. Now, I just want to talk about drugs in the actual term, which is anything that has a physiological effect on your body. Now, if you're doing cocaine, heroin, MDMA, like drugs that will create quite meth, drugs that will create quite a strong response in your body, it's going to be quite obvious that why you're having a come down, and you can probably work that out. But if you're, having alcohol or caffeine or nicotine, things that, society act like aren't a big deal because they're legal, well, they're still drugs and they still have a physiological effect. And I'm pretty sure all 3 of them also have a psychological effect as well, or psychoactive effect, so they affect your mind. And caffeine, is consumed by a lot of people. Alcohol is consumed by a lot of people. Nicotine, by quite a few people, probably not as many, but quite a few people as well. And you just need to think about, is there any change in consumption from your normal amount, whether it be more or less? Have you stopped taking medication that's been prescribed to you? It sounds really obvious, but if you're slowly drinking more every day and you don't realize, as in drinking alcohol, that can have a big effect on you. Maybe you're having more coffee and then it's affecting your sleep. These drugs work differently, but if you're doing it to get high, it might be antagonizing your dopamine, and then you won't have as much dopamine when you're not on the drug. If I could go into more details about each individual drug on a separate video, but just something to take into account. Is there something you're taking more or less of? Kind of an obvious one. Is that affecting your mental health? And if it is, and it's like, great, well, you've identified it. You don't have to worry too much about it, and you can just act accordingly, which is great. So the third one is exercise. I I don't always want to exercise, but I think it's really important. And for me, there's 2 main types of exercise. One is cardio, and the other is, I don't want to call it resistance training because it makes me think of weights, but pushing your muscle, whether you're doing like squats even without weights, or push-ups against a wall, or those are the 2 main things I think of, and I think they're both very important and they both have their own place. Obviously, if you don't exercise at all, you can try going for a walk, just anything. I think if you're not exercising, you're probably not optimizing your hormones. Now, there's probably a very small subset of people who can get away with it, or who, might feel fine about exercising, but I mean, worst case scenario, you give it a go. It's not going to kill you. So that's something I really recommend. Now, as I was saying before, I've got a big list of these. I'll probably do a couple other episodes. Today I've covered sleep, drugs, in the real term, as it should be addressed, not the, illegal drug sense. That's not what I mean. And exercise. I've got a big old list, so I'll do some more. For the sleep one, I will put a link to some sort of information for Matthew Walker, so you can find his other podcast or whatever he does. And yeah, hopefully that helps. If not, I'll do some more tips and things you can do. And if if all of them don't help, then maybe need some more help, or maybe there's something else you can do, or someone else can comment. But yeah, I mean, I hope they do. Yeah, thanks for listening. Cheers.